When we last saw Dwayne and his mother Mary in front of juvenile judge James Payne, life seemed to be moving in the right direction. Dwayne was home, doing well, and glad to be back in the family's small inner-city apartment with his younger brother and sister. There was hope that Dwayne's case would soon be closed. This is where we'd like to say the story ends. But just 4 weeks after returning home, and 3 weeks after his 10th birthday, there is a stunning development. Indianapolis police arrest Dwayne. He is accused of molesting a 5-year-old neighbor girl.
I don't know what happened. I don't know. I want him to be back home, but I guess he just needs help before he can come back home.
Dwayne is locked up in the Marion County Juvenile Detention Facility, just 2 floors below Judge Payne's court. He is housed with 140 kids, all juvenile delinquents, while he waits for a court hearing to determine his fate. As shocking as Dwayne's story might seem, just across the Indiana state line, Cook County Public Guardian Patrick Murphy says he talks to kids every day who tell him horrific stories about their childhoods.
We have kids who have been tortured, who have been raped, who have been left alone, who have then come into the system and gone through as many as 30 separate foster homes. You sit and talk to kids who have been chewed up, whose spirits have been crushed, whose souls have been crushed, who have nothing left in them. How do you look at a 12 and a 14-year-old and say, you know, their lives are over, they don't count anymore? It's a minor Holocaust what we're doing to these kids.
The next time we see Dwayne, it's 3 weeks later, the day Judge Payne had planned to close this case for good. Instead, he faces a 10-year-old who enters his court wearing a blue jumpsuit. After a draining hearing, the judge decides to place Dwayne at a local hospital in Indianapolis, where he can receive a full psychiatric evaluation. Judge Payne is troubled by the trend he sees in his court. Caseloads doubling in just 36 months' time, and younger kids like Dwayne facing unimaginable childhoods.
In our court, younger kids are getting harmed. It's not 10, 11, 12-year-olds who are getting spanked or whipped or beaten. It is now kids born in the hospital, cocaine positive, kids who are being sexually abused under the age of 1. It's getting younger, and it's getting worse.
Marion County Prosecutor Scott Newman is in charge of Dwayne's delinquency case.
There's no secret to how you get someone like Dwayne Groover. You immerse a child in a lot of bad adult behavior, whether it's prostitution or drugs or domestic violence. Then you pluck him out and you leave him in the cold without any kind of male authority figure, and there you get somebody like Dwayne Groover.
And just when you think you've seen the last of him, Dwayne's story will take even more dramatic twists and turns during our 2-year journey following his case. This is a day 38-year-old mom Linda Wells and her husband Willie are finding hard to comprehend. It's time to move their young 10-year-old daughter Chelsea to Daymar, a long-term residential placement facility in Indianapolis. Chelsea is here today because 6 months ago, Linda asked the state to take her child. She could no longer cope with Chelsea's challenging behavior. Linda and the Daymar staff have tried to prepare Chelsea for today's move, but at just 10 years old, Chelsea is completely overwhelmed. Carla Bill is admissions director at Daymar. She knows what an emotional time this is for Chelsea and her family, and does her best to make Chelsea feel at home. Chelsea will share her new dorm with 8 other girls and attend school on the Daymar campus. She lights up when she finally gets to see what the kids at Daymar love most: the pool. After her tour of the Daymar campus, Chelsea heads back to her dorm, where, with her mom by her side, she quietly eats her first lunch at her new home. After lunch, Linda tries to stay positive as all of Chelsea's belongings are moved into her new room.
These are dirty.
It's a toy chest.
Another pair of shoes. We'll straighten them in there too, okay?
Hey, Mom, I can. You help me with my clothes?
Linda knows her time with Chelsea is beginning to run out.
I knew this day was going to be coming, but now reality just set in. You're going to have some fun up here, right? Be okay. There's Dad. You'll be right. Don't cry. Give me a kiss.
Chelsea, do you want to see the things that you can earn? You see our stickers and our pens and things like that? But you need to tell Mom to see her later, okay? Because she'll come visit you, okay? She'll come visit.
Give me a hug. I love you. Love you. Don't do this, Chelsea. Don't cry. Don't do this.
Do you want to see her pens and stickers? Come on. Look at this. More pens. Look at this. More pens. It's okay.
I love you.
Coming up, a teenage mother trying hard to adapt to her new foster home, but daily pressures set off a frightening chain of events. The last time we saw 15-year-old Melissa, she was struggling with the lure of her old friends and feeling trapped in a life of perpetual foster care. But after thinking about how far she had come and the future she wanted for herself and her baby Raven, Melissa seemed back on track.
I know for sure things will be better. I know what changes I have to make, and I can do it.
After all the hard work, all the positive signs, and her repeated apparent good intentions, the next chapter in Melissa's story is a stunning one that makes local headline news.
This missing teen and mother is a ward of the court along with her infant daughter.
Exactly 29 days after telling us she could make it, Melissa crawled through her bedroom window, stole her foster parents' car, and ran away with 11-month-old Raven.
She and her child were in the foster home, and she took off.
Judge Payne makes an urgent early morning phone call to the county director of the Division of Family and Children. The judge is on a mission to find Melissa and Raven.
There's a detective in, I think it is Johnson County, Amanda Kiesling, who has put out a nationwide bulletin for her.
And remember Sergeant Terheide, the face Judge Payne told Melissa to take a hard look at when we first met her 4 months earlier?
That's Sergeant Terheide. If you take off, I'll ask him to hunt you down and find you and bring you back here.
That same Sergeant Terheide is now officially in charge of finding Melissa and checking in by phone.
Y'all call the Hendricks County deputy and see if she has anything first.
Across town, after foster mom Karen Butterworth wakes up to the realization that Melissa and Raven are gone, she is in shock.
So she's gonna be so stupid. I was so stupid. Because Matt's keys were missing yesterday off Kara's key ring, and I had a thought, and I didn't go with it. I thought, check Melissa's room, and I thought, well, no, because this trust thing, and she got me. I was stupid.
You will not interfere with the custody of Raven while I have
Judge
control.
Payne is no stranger to cases like Melissa's. Melissa knows the streets well. She spent nearly 5 months on the run when she was pregnant with Raven. The United States has the highest teen pregnancy rate of any developed nation. Problems related to teen pregnancy cost taxpayers $7 billion a year. So for juvenile judges like Judge Payne, this Saturday morning crisis is no surprise.
Unfortunately, it's our kids, and adults typically indicate what children should do, and they do it. They teach the behavior, and kids model it, and then we blame kids for the problems. This is predictable.
It's now been 2 days since Melissa ran away with Raven. The longer they're gone, the worse the odds are that they'll be found. But local TV stations are turning up the heat, and for Melissa, hiding forever won't be easy. When we first met Vanessa over 30 days ago in Judge Payne's court, the fate of her baby, Asia, was still hanging in the balance. Asia was born cocaine positive, declared a ward of the court, and placed in foster care. It's now a month later. Today, Vanessa and her 4 children arrive at a family and child visitation facility called Giant Steps. This is the only place where Vanessa is allowed to visit her baby. Vanessa gets to see Asia every Monday for 1 hour.
Dang, she got cuter.
Say hello.
Can I hold her, Mama?
Let me hold her for a minute.
Ronnie Taylor is vice president and CEO of Giant Steps and is supervising today's visit.
Families are required to see their children at least once a week by a state statute until they lose the rights of the children, if they do lose the rights. So a lot of times if families don't participate, they lose rights to their kids.
Cocaine use among pregnant women is especially tough to deal with, according to Dr. Tacoma McKnight, professor of obstetrics and gynecology at Northwestern University Medical School.
Cocaine, I think, scared all of us in the field of obstetrics. It's just a very highly addictive type of a drug. So women have a very difficult time in kicking the habit during their pregnancies. It just really is that way.
Vanessa's 1 hour weekly visit with Asia is over. Vanessa is not the only one who hates to see the time end. Leaving their baby sister is especially hard for 9-year-old Calvin and 6-year-old Vivian.
Now my gut feeling is that it's going to turn out great, but at the same time you never know, because with the drug problem it's really hard to predict, because one difficult life situation can drop a person off the wagon, and you never know, just one bad day could change everything, so it's hard to say at this point.
Vanessa returns for her 3rd court visit today, where she'll learn what the state and the court have planned for Asia's future. Judge Payne listens to testimony from Catherine Brown, attorney for the Division of Family and Children. Vanessa knows she won't have many more chances. This is it, perhaps her final shot at getting her daughter back.
Well, I've been doing everything I'm supposed to do. I know I've been wrong, I've done wrong in my past, and it's getting better. It's gonna get better.
The hearing is long, but at the last minute, Vanessa gets some positive news. Judge Payne decides he's going to continue to review her case. He gives her the chance to remain in counseling and work toward getting Asia back. But
if one time you don't do something, if you miss a class, they will have the right to come back in here and say, we're through. We want to move on, with Asia going to someone else to live forever. Do you understand that? In other words, your ability to get Asia is going to be real tough, isn't it? You can't make a mistake.
He's working with me. A lot of judges wouldn't do that. He's giving me a chance to get my child back.
Since we met her almost 5 months earlier, Vanessa has made an obvious transformation in her appearance, in her mental attitude, in her determination.
I see friends that still use every day, like when I go to the store and stuff like that. They, Vanessa, why you look good? And I get compliments all the time.
When we visit her at home where she lives with her kids, her mom and dad, and her extended family, we get an even better picture of how she's been able to come this far. The love and support of her family, who refused to let cocaine destroy Vanessa's life.
By me being on drugs, it wasn't the atmosphere or from the family I come from. It was my choice. I'm not from a bad background, you know. I don't have a bad background. It was my choice, and it was an ugly choice.
After nearly 5 months, Vanessa is still clean. She helps around the house by babysitting. Vanessa doesn't have Asia back yet, but she's meeting every milestone required by the courts, made every court appearance, never missed a visit with Asia, and continues on her quest for a life free of drugs. She knows she can't make one mistake. If she does, baby Asia will almost certainly be placed for adoption. With the help of her family, Vanessa is making it, one step at a time.
It's more like a hope thing right now.
Six months ago, when we first met Delena, she told us her remarkable story. Over 20 foster homes, 11 different schools, having a baby at 14, and then at age 16, waging her own successful fight to terminate her biological mother's parental rights over her. Now, at age 17, Delena has been in the child welfare system for most of her life. For Monroe Circuit Court Judge Viola Talaferro, Delena's case represents that special something that helps keep her going through all the difficult times on the bench.
Well, she's done such a great job. She really has. I'm so proud of her.
But shortly after the heartwarming court hearing where she shows Judge Talaferro pictures of her son Gavin, her situation takes a turn for the worse. As her 18th birthday approaches, Delena forges 2 checks from her foster mom, then runs away from home.
I don't know why I did it, and I didn't need the money. I had no reason to do it, but I did.
After a week on the run without her little boy, Delena couldn't take it anymore and called her home-based counselor.
I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to see him. I took myself to the youth shelter, and then I lost him, and I haven't seen him. I didn't get to see him for weeks. And that was just... And then the first time I saw him, the first thing he said to me was, "Mommy, are you sad?"
Now Delena is allowed to see her son twice a week. Delena is in a new foster home as she awaits her trial. Because she's a flight risk, Delena's time with Gavin is supervised by social worker Becky Rose. Gavin still lives with foster mom Kathy Brown. Delena knows there's always the chance she could lose her son for good if she takes another wrong turn. It's a tense summer morning when Delena arrives at the courthouse for her initial delinquency hearing. This is the same hallway where 6 months ago, Delena told us she would probably live with foster mom Kathy Brown until she was 20.
And she's wonderful. I've been there since my son was 3 months old, and I probably won't leave until I'm like 20, something like that.
Today, Kathy and Delena don't even look at each other. It's not the check forging or running away that stuns Kathy. She says the most painful realization is that Delena wants to live somewhere else.
We've repaired so many damages over the last 2.5 years. And then the idea that she's not willing to repair and rebuild the relationship so that she and Gavin and I could be together just breaks my heart.
Just a few feet away, Delena nervously waits for her court hearing. She says she never thought she'd be in this much trouble when she forged the checks and ran away.
Now I'm sitting here and I'm wondering whether or not I'm going to go to prison or not.
Delena, you are charged with 3 delinquent acts. Count 1, theft. Count 2, theft. Count 3, forgery. It's surprising, but we shouldn't be so surprised because, after all, it has to be frightening for a young person, almost 18 years of age, without a solid family, without family support, the things that many of us take for granted. Does that excuse her behavior? No. But at least it gives us a glimpse of the problems that she's having.
Delena is relieved to learn that today's hearing is mostly formality. But in 30 days, she will face the biggest challenge of her life, her trial. When we last left 15-year-old Melissa, she'd run away in the middle of the night with her 11-month-old daughter, Raven. Judge Payne and a police detective were scouring the city for signs of Melissa and her baby. Foster mom Karen Butterworth also had local TV stations reporting the story. Less than a week after she ran away, the Butterworths get the call they've been waiting for. Melissa, with Raven, finally turns herself in to local police. It's now time to pick up Raven at a local hospital where she'd been taken for observation.
I have to wonder what all she's been through from all the places I hear that, 2 o'clock in the morning getting up and moving somewhere. It's...
While Karen is reunited with Raven, she knows Melissa sits in a jail cell waiting to find out the consequences of her actions. In just 2 days, Melissa will have to return to court.
I think she'll be very remorseful and very emotional, and I think she'll be scared to death.
By the time we see Melissa one last time, it's 3 months later, and she's in juvenile court facing charges of auto theft and neglect.
Are you asking at this time that I accept this plea agreement and your admission to count 1, the petition of auto theft?
Yes, sir.
You understand that by
After
admitting
striking
this,
a plea agreement, the state of Indiana decides to drop Melissa's neglect charges in exchange for her guilty plea to auto theft. Until her final disposition or sentencing hearing, Melissa will remain locked up in the Marion County Juvenile Detention Facility.
what Melissa needs is to understand that she is not a responsible human being yet. She's 15 years old. If she can learn to be dependent at this point on the right person, she has a chance.
Those were Judge Payne's words 6 months earlier. Now, this child in need of services, is also a juvenile delinquent. Still, we couldn't help but remember Melissa the way we saw her so many times over the last 6 months. Her mind made up that she was going to make it, as a teenager, as a student, as a mom.
If you come back and see me in another month, things will be good. I just know they'll be good. I have my mind set for what I want to do, so as long as I'm around positive people and make positive decisions, I will be doing just fine.
Coming up, the conclusion to our dramatic 2.5-year journey with Dwayne. And a judge decides if Delena should be locked up or given another chance. It was 30 days ago that 17-year-old Delena sat in front of Circuit Court Judge Viola Talaferro after being charged with 2 delinquent acts of theft and forgery. It's now a month later, and on this warm, overcast morning in Bloomington, Indiana, today is Delena's trial. After 13 years in the child welfare system, no one involved in Delena's case ever thought they'd see a day like today.
As to the allegations you committed the crime of forgery, what exactly did you do?
I wrote 2 checks and signed Kathy's name.
And you intended to commit the crime of forgery when you did that?
Yes.
Delena is on trial for forging 2 checks totaling almost $400 from her foster mom of 3 years, Kathy Brown. Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Brett Raper tries to understand why a model foster child like Delena would steal from a foster mother she says she loves.
What were you going to do with the money that you received from these items?
I was going to give it to a person that I liked, that wanted it.
Things don't get any better for Delena as her probation officer, Pam Kane, is called to the witness stand.
What was recommended at the detention hearing was that she not go to detention because she was going to go to school and maintain employment. The very next day I found out that she was not going to work and that she skipped school the next day after that detention hearing. Since that time, I believe she's also tested positive on a drug screen.
Next, Delena's child welfare case manager, Michelle Fields, takes the stand. Delena knows with each round of testimony, Judge Talaferro is forming a decision on what should happen to her.
One of the recommendations is that Delena go to secure detention today for 5 days of the 30 possible days. Any concerns about that?
I don't think she understands that if she were an adult, 5 days would be a miracle. In addition, she has a child that this is affecting.
Delena's case manager does point out, however, that Delena spent years in the system playing by the rules, gaining the admiration of nearly everyone at the Monroe County Office of Family and Children.
She was considered the star child, one of the kids on our caseload that you talk highly about, that you say, I wish I had more kids like Delena.
As nervous as Delena is about the testimony from her case manager and probation officer, nothing prepares her for the last person to take the stand. Former foster mom Kathy Brown, who still has custody of Delena's 3-year-old son.
I agree with the recommendations. Delena said to me, Kathy, I never meant to hurt you. I didn't think you'd find out.
This did hurt you very much, though, doesn't it?
It's been devastating. I told Delena in the first time we ever met, when she said, I just want a place to live where I'm wanted. I want to be part of a family. I said, that's what I want. I want a family. I wanted to be Delena's mother and Gavin's grandmother. I've been saving for her college. I didn't know what else to do when I found out she forged the checks than to press criminal charges. It's similar to what happened last summer when she took my MAC card and took $300 out. And when I confronted her with it, she denied it. And then when she realized I was going to watch a videotape of the transaction, she admitted to doing it. I want her to accept some responsibility. Delena, could you look at me? For what she's done to me. And from her own heart, make some amends, as opposed to people telling her what she has to do.
With Kathy Brown and her childhood friends looking on, Delena can barely fight through her words as she makes one last attempt to convince the judge that she should not be sent to secured detention.
I just want everyone to know that's been involved in my case, and that I know that I have been a disappointment, and that I am very angry at myself, and that I want to be a good person, and I want to do good things, and I want to succeed, and I don't want to go through the court system like this. I hate it. So I just do want everybody to know that regardless of if you don't think that I am remorseful, I am, and I am truly sorry.
After almost an hour in the courtroom, it's now up to Judge Talaferro, not a jury, to decide Delena's fate.
There's been a lot of discussion by almost everyone about whether or not Delena should go to detention, as if that is the only issue in front of this court. That's not the only issue. First of all, the most important thing is what are the appropriate consequences for a young person who commits theft and forgery. Is Delena a bad person? I don't think so. Is her behavior unacceptable? Of course. So what is appropriate will be 4 months of formal probation, 30 days in a secure detention facility, participation in the Victim Offender Reconciliation Program, and monetary restitution to be paid in full to Kathy Brown, complete the Youth Education Shoplifting Program in order to understand the effects of stealing, complete the brief intensive group at the Center for Behavioral Health to address Delena's substance abuse issues, 40 hours of public restitution. Now, I have not said exactly what the recommendations are. I am going to send you to detention today for 5 days, and I will suspend the 25 days. So you will go now with Miss Kane out of this room, out of this door. And Delena, I wish that I could have seen you walk out of the door leading to the outside.
She wasn't here for all of the good she'd done in the past. She was here because she committed 2 offenses.
Hi, Pam Kane, probation. Need to go from 3 to 2, please.
This is what I deserve. I don't want to go, but this is what I have to do.
Her future's in her hands. I do not know what that will be.
And can I have holding on 2nd floor?
Ahead, after 2 years and unimaginable turmoil, our conclusion to the story of Dwayne.
I've always been there. Like I told my son, no matter what you do, I will always be there.
It's been 2 years since we met 9-year-old Dwayne and his mom, Mary.
And I beg court.
And it's been over a year since we last saw Dwayne. That was right after his arrest on allegations that he molested a 5-year-old neighbor girl. At age 11, the picture of Dwayne's life is still completely unclear. For Dwayne, his mom, and Judge Payne, the court hearings never end.
He said they're going to ask for a continuance.
The toughest issue to tackle is whether or not Dwayne is competent to stand trial for the alleged molestation. Dwayne has now been out of his home for 2 years and currently lives at Lutherwood, a residential treatment facility in Indianapolis. Today is Dwayne's 20th court hearing since we met him in 1999.
So, even if they drop the criminal charges, he don't get to come home?
Not until he's competent. He's going to be a competent human being and understand the difference between right and wrong. But he's not going to go back into the community, back into the neighborhoods, back into the home until he understands the difference between right and wrong.
So everything we're doing now is for nothing?
I don't know that it's for nothing. It still will help him, but he...
I mean, we've been dealing with this 2 years. He's not going to get incompetent. He is slow. What are you going to do, keep him until he's 20, 30 years old?
Not until he's 20 or 30. Our jurisdiction will lose either at the age of 18 or 21.
So you'll keep him until then?
If I have to.
So let me ask you one more question. What rights do I have to my child? None?
We have the right as a parent as long as he's being taken care of and others are safe.
So basically I have no right to him?
I didn't say that.
If he can't come home and he can't come and visit me, then basically I have no right to him.
We have no right to have him in your home as long as he's not competent and doesn't understand the difference between right and wrong, so that placing him back in the home may put him back in others in the same position that happened the last time he was placed there.
Judge Payne orders Dwayne to remain a ward of the court and continue to live at Lutherwood.
They're good to you where you are, aren't they? You have fun, right? You just want to come home. But you're happy where you are, ain't you? It's better than Juvenile or in other places, ain't it?
Dwayne's case manager, Georgette Powell.
Dwayne has such a low functioning base level that we aren't sure how much he actually comprehends. So it is difficult. And sometimes children with these problems grow up to be sociopaths.
I have 3 kids. And believe it or not, and this is embarrassing and this is a shame for me to say it, 3 kids. Every one of them, and they all have different fathers. Every one of their fathers went to prison for child molesting and got 6 months and 6 months probation. And I have an 8-year-old boy that gets 1 child molest case, and look where he is.
Marion County Prosecutor Scott Newman says it's almost impossible to figure out the best way to handle a traumatic situation like Dwayne's.
The problem with Dwayne's case is he's so young and so limited mentally, according to the experts, that he has not been found competent to stand trial. So you've got this wicked combination of very serious crimes that you are unable to bring to trial because at the same time that he's doing these things, he is simply not competent in the way we understand the criminal justice system to stand trial as a criminal.
Prosecutor Newman is no stranger to Dwayne's family history. Dwayne's father, Bobby, is currently in jail. He's been estranged from the family since Dwayne was 5. And after 2.5 years on this story, we finally meet Bobby Groover, who is locked up for battery, aggravated battery, and being a habitual offender. He also served 2 years in prison for child molesting.
It was child molesting stuff, but I was living with the girl was living with me and everything. I was taking care of her.
How old was she?
She was 13 and everything. And it just led to one thing to another and stuff. I meant that I did wrong and everything, but I already paid for that time and everything.
Bobby tells us it's been almost 2 years since he's seen Dwayne. He learned from us that Dwayne was arrested and is now considered a child sexual perpetrator.
Just never thought that he would grow up to be like that. Why would he do something like that and stuff? He must have seen somebody do it or something.
It's now 3 months later, back to court with Mary and Dwayne. The issue of Dwayne's competency to stand trial continues to cloud his case. Prosecuting attorney Troy Rivera says the state is not ready to drop Dwayne's delinquency charges.
At this point in time, the state is still awaiting as to the issue of competency, and that has not been resolved as of yet. The state would ask for this to be set for another continuance.
Judge Payne agrees to continue the delinquency matter. He then turns his attention to the problems that brought Dwayne to court in the first place. He listens to Dwayne's counselor from Lutherwood.
Dwayne's doing very well in our highly structured therapeutic system, and he's showing less symptoms of his sexual abuse and traumatization. We still have to be very concrete with him in therapy and in our individual and group sessions. He still doesn't seem to understand why he can't go home and live with his mother at this time. Or his charges. He's been performing extremely well in school with A's, B's, and C's because of the high level of structure.
As the hearing continues, Mary is in for a huge surprise. Because Dwayne has been away from home for so long, federal and state law says the state must begin the process of taking her child away, legally, permanently, terminating her parental rights.
We staffed this case for mandatory termination and have determined that it's not in his best interest at this time to pursue that.
Doesn't state law require the filing and dismissal?
I believe it does, and we will file.
I don't understand any of the stuff they said. I don't know what all this stuff means.
If a child has been out of the home 15 of the last 22 months, we are required to file a petition for termination of parental rights. So that's what's happening right now.
Do you understand that, Mary?
Sense?
I think she was completely confused about the termination.
So they're going to take my son. Don't worry about it. You're fine. We're required by law to file this petition because he's been out of your home since November of 1999. And the law says we have to file it, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go anywhere. And if the court decides to pursue it, you'll be appointed, most likely be appointed an attorney to help you with that. So you'll be fine.
If they terminate him, I won't get him back.
If they terminate, that's correct.
I won't?
I know, but that's right. If they terminate, you won't get him back.
Ever?
As has been the case nearly every time we've been with him, Dwayne leaves court today to return to his placement facility. Dr. Judith Campbell is Dwayne's child and adolescent psychiatrist at Lutherwood.
When I see him, usually he's hard to pin down. He's always got a lot of energy and is looking this way and that. Enthusiastic, excited about whatever he's doing at the time. And I think those are all assets that we can use to build on. He's got to learn some personal responsibility, and also he needs to understand better social skills and rules of life. And he's got a long way to go for that still.
Unless Dwayne has drastic changes in his comprehension, Dwayne will probably remain in institutionalization, even beyond 18. Because many times when children are in institutions, for a length of time, they begin to become institutionalized. And we see that in the Department of Corrections too. We see adults who can't function on the outside. They have to be in the institution. Time and again, if the adults are prosecuted, they either don't get prosecuted or they get such short sentences. If Dwayne were 30 years old, he probably would have been gone out of the system 18 months ago.
Though Dwayne continued to make progress at Lutherwood, no one can say for certain if he'll ever leave an institutional setting or return home. And so, after 2.5 years, 25 court hearings, 7 placements, and over $200,000 in taxpayer money, what do we really know about Dwayne? What do we really know about the millions of abused, neglected, and at-risk children who fill our juvenile courtrooms every day?
This shouldn't happen in our country. We should not have children who are abused. That shouldn't happen.
Why did this have to happen to my family? Parents on drugs, teenagers getting pregnant, doing drugs, nobody cares.
You're an alleged father.
Why should I have to sit here and tell you how to raise your child? I mean, to me, it just seems like you should know that. You should be born knowing those things. But unfortunately, there are people that don't. And there are people that are very cruel, people that don't have a conscience, people that just think that this is my child. I brought you into this world. I can take you out.
I would hope there's hope, but I wouldn't guarantee it and I wouldn't promise it.
Taking care of the millions of at-risk children is an overwhelming challenge. We wish we could say that our exceptional access over the last 2 years has yielded some clear answers for improving America's child welfare systems. But long-term solutions are not easy to come by. What we have found is inspiration in the work of judges, foster parents, and caseworkers. So many people dedicated to improving the lives of these children and hoping to break the cycle of abuse and neglect. For MSNBC, I'm Forrest Sawyer.